Never let a good crisis go to waste. This was a famous quote by Winston Churchill, referring to politics. Whenever you have a crisis, it really does present an opportunity. Now, South Africa recently has been going through a lot of crises, right? We've got a local crisis, we've got a foreign crisis. But today, I want to change our line a little. We've been outlining what those crises are. Today, I want to give a situation where we could use these crises, these twin crises that we got, the local and the foreign ones, to reshape South Africa and to make it the prosperous country we all want to live in. So let's have a look at our crises that we've got. As I mentioned, local and foreign. Let's start off with the local problem. What is our big local problem? Well, South Africa's been reshaped by the elections last year, where the ANC couldn't hold on to its absolute majority. We now have a government of national unity. That's all fine. People were quite happy with that outcome, for starters. But now it's time that that starts paying off. And it was all going along, with a few lumps and bumps until the budget failed to be passed. It failed to be passed, as we've covered quite extensively, because the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, tried to tax the poor by increasing VAT by 2 percentage points. And not even ANC lapdogs like the Good Party, Patricia de Lille, or Action SA, could agree with that way of balancing the budget. What is the problem with South Africa? We've got two financial problems. We spend too much and we make too little. That's the problem. So the spending too much, we've dealt with it. And once again, it was a full view over the last couple of days. And that is when our Minister of Transport, Barbara Creecy, tries to put the third best candidate in as the new CEO of SAA because that person is linked to the ANC. It's that kind of cadre deployment which has led our 700 plus state-owned entities down the toilet, losses which have to be covered by you and I, because ultimately these companies are all funded by tax money. Those SOEs all need bailouts, so that ANC-linked cadres can buy those pointy shoes and wear and drive those German luxury sedans. We can cut that bloat. We spoke about South Africa needing a Doge to do something with our costs, which are absolutely out of line with any country earning the kind of money we do. But that's only half the crisis. The other half of the crisis is that we just don't make enough stuff. We don't do enough business. Therefore, we are not generating the taxes that we should be earning. We've got some great news. We are having another State of the Nation business breakfast on the 16th of April at the Sandton Convention Centre. Our speakers for this particular event, Minister Gayton McKenzie, probably South Africa's most popular politician at the moment, and well-known analyst and a guest many times on the State of the Nation, Dr. Frans Cronje. And these two gentlemen will be keeping us informed of where South Africa is and where it's going to. If you want to come and join us at our breakfast, have a look at the information in the description below. We'd love to have you there. One of the first things that President Cyril Ramaphosa said when he came into power back in 2017, 2018, was that he was going to cut red tape. And there was a mystery man named Sipho Nkosi. Love to know if this man exists. If you know him, please send him a message. Really love to know proof of life. The guy was appointed as the red tape cutter. The guy cut nothing. Instead, we've just had miles more of red tape added to doing business in South Africa. And it shows in the numbers. We've had no economic growth under the presidency of Cyril Ramaphosa. Of course, he's going to always look back and say it's COVID's fault. No, it's not COVID's fault. Every other country is now moving along. We are not. South Africa is literally drowning in red tape from the master of all red tapes, and that is our race-based laws, BEE, which means that you spend your life ticking boxes putting people into the business that perhaps you don't want to put in. It stops black entrepreneurs from taking their rightful stake in the economy. We've got skills development levies. We've got God knows what else, licensing, mining rights. Remember, Gwede Mantashe, when he became the Minister of Mining, took away mining rights. So we now no longer have mining rights. And that's why South African mining has slipped to 12th in the world and so on. We've got operator licenses. Transnet want to hold on to their monopoly on transport, even though they can't run a port. All of these things just hurt the country. But it's entrepreneurs that bring innovation and growth. For more than 10 years, we've had a Ministry of Small Business. Do you have any idea what they've done? They've done nothing to help small business. They don't seem to understand how small business operates, and we've said this many times. The point I'm getting to is we could use the current crisis in the Government of National Unity to have an honest discussion around our bloated public sector, especially getting rid of some of the state-owned entities and some of the unnecessary things that we have. Skills development levy comes to mind, road accident fund. All these things are a massive drain on the fiscus. And make South Africa a bit more streamlined, a bit more open for business. And then on the other hand, we could have a serious conversation around red tape. Not just put out the name Sipho Nkosi and think that's going to keep everybody quiet. No, there's a reason why every CBD in South Africa, except for Cape Town, has got to let signs in every window and every office park isn't full. It's because there's just too much red tape. It's just too hard to run a business in this country. And then we get to the issue of things like property rights. Nobody's going to start a business in any country if you are not sure that your property, and I'm not just talking about your physical land, but your building, your intellectual property, all of these things can be expropriated because there is no safety of property rights. And people can stand on their head. The reason that the government passed legislation recently called the Expropriation Act was to expropriate stuff. And it says in that act that it's property. Anything that is property has been tested in court. Who's going to start a business like that? If you came out with a great piece of technology, if you wrote some wonderful code, well, the government could say under the public interest, I'm taking it away from you. In fact, we're going to do it. If you start a great business, they could come along and say, in the public interest, we're taking this away from you. No entrepreneur, no, never mind an international investor. Nobody's going to invest in the country. You're just not going to generate the taxes. So here we have the opportunity, and the opportunity on the local front is to say, we've got a government of national unity, we're going to clean house on the cost side and on the income side. We're going to make it easier to do business. We're going to make it less expensive to run the country. We're going to be streamlined. Will this happen under the ANC while they were in charge? You could say 100%. Not, but they're not in charge anymore. They're just a large part of the government of national unity. And as we saw with the budget, perhaps the government of national unity can influence the ANC towards making South Africa a little bit better, getting it open for business. The crisis could be the thing that spurs on the change. You know, at least that way, the ANC's got plausible deniability. Because we didn't want to do it, but we had to do it. Our partners, this, that, and the other. So I'm saying, let's not let that crisis go to waste. Then we've got another serious problem at the moment. And it goes hand in glove with the first problem, which is the local economy. And that is South Africa has got a target on its back right now. But in many ways, it's linked to the problems that we've laid out for locals in South Africa. And that is, there's a new sheriff in town. We know all about the sheriff. And they are saying it's unacceptable to have some of these laws that you have. It's unacceptable in 2025 to discriminate on the basis of race. It's meant to be a racially harmonious country that belongs to all who live in it. Well, then let's change those laws. We don't like the property rights, the situation, the Expropriation Act. Well, here's your opportunity to not only do what will be good for your economy, but to do what will be good for your country. And along the way, you will get massive international support for those kind of acts. So I'm saying that South Africa is sitting with twin crises, but in many ways, they are one crisis. And if you're going to have a hard time in passing this over to people, blame the crisis. That's what Winston Churchill was referring to when he said, don't let a good crisis go to waste. So, another thing on our foreign policy is understand that it's time for South Africa to grow up. The new South Africa must grow up. We got dealt a good hand in 1994. The world was delighted with the outcome of South Africa, a country that they thought was going to descend into chaos, potentially even civil war. Everything was averted by some great diplomacy, some people that were prepared to talk it out. That's why they gave prizes to Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk, and South Africa was the miracle. And we were blessed with a wonderful statesman in Nelson Mandela. But it also allowed our foreign policy positions to just be accepted. We were the special country, and anything we said was acceptable to the world. And we well remember back in those days, Nelson Mandela, who had an enormous presence in the world. That's why he's spoken in the same sentences with people like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, because he was such a renowned, revered statesman. He could tell the whole world to go to hell. I'm going to keep on dealing with Yasser Arafat and with Fidel Castro. And he could, because he could point to two things. He could point to his own life story, which was wonderful and inspirational to the world. And he did it in a very good way. He was a great presence. We no longer have a Nelson Mandela. So we can't tell the rest of the world to go to hell. We can't. We live in the world. There are countries out there that do tell the rest of the world to go to hell. And you've got to fall into one of two categories. You can tell the rest of the world to go to hell if you have got a population over a billion people and you create billions of dollars worth of industry and you're a legitimate part of the global architecture. Not a country drowning in debt that struggles to keep the lights on. So it's time for South Africa to start doing what's in the best interests of South Africa. Sure, we have to have a conscience. And you can go to the United Nations and vote with your conscience, that's fine. But also vote with your interests. That's what the rest of the world does. That's why there were so many countries that were prepared to say to us after we took Israel to the International Court of Justice, we support you, we support you. They wouldn't put their name to a piece of paper, but they would give support. But they're not going to be the guys leading the charge. And we talk about big countries here. So we've got the opportunity right now. And this window is not going to last long. We've got the opportunity, both on the local front, where the past caught up with the ANC. In the past, they would have put it together and did any budget. It would have been passed by their majority in Parliament. And like it, don't like it, sorry for you, we're in charge. They can't do that anymore. And they can use the cover of the Government of National Unity and their loss of majority to make those decisions that they know are in the best interests of the country. Cut the bloat, make it easier to do business. And in the international front, bigger countries than South Africa have had to make compromises for their best interests, in their own interests. They don't have to love them, whoever they're trading with. They don't have to do anything but trade with them. India's had a fractured relationship with America that goes back to Indian independence. Very similar situation to South Africa. Very similar call. You know, you were mates of our colonial masters, therefore we don't like you either. And India did that until 1990. For 43 years they fought against it. Then somebody hit them with a pragmatic stick, and suddenly they're prepared to do business wherever it suited them. They do business with the West, and we saw Narendra Modi go and visit Donald Trump and sit with him and hammer out a deal. They can do business with the East. They're getting cheap oil from Russia. They sell products wherever they want to sell their products. Nobody has a problem with India. But everything they do is in their own interests. I think it's high time that South Africa acts in its interests, and I think that this crisis presents South Africa with a massive opportunity to turn South Africa into the success story that we all know it should be. Well, if you want a success story, go to Pace Car Rentals, support them. They are a success story, a small business that's done well. Another little success story has been the State of the Nation. You're watching this. If you haven't subscribed, do so. And we'll see you again on the State of the Nation. Thank you.